Hey Tara.
Hey there, how are you?
Good, and you?
I'm hanging in there. I don't know if you saw my email or not.
Oh no, I did not.
Oh, I ended up coming back from Cannes with the flu, so I'm not going to be on video today.
Oh, no worries about that. And I hope you'll recover well.
I know, I hope so soon.
So what is your role at HubSpot?
So I run the account management department for, I guess you would say procurement. I saw that on the thing and I was trying to figure out for all our invest partners, everybody that we brought on board from, CNSG, PSI, New World, Digital, On Track, we've done like 21 acquisitions
Oh, so
and invest, right? So I manage the enterprise accounts that don't have advisors in all their books of business.
mhm. Sorry, Tara, I just realized I know you. Sorry. I just saw McDonough. I realized I thought it was a different person, but yeah, we spoke a few times.
Yes.
Hey Simon, how are you?
I'm good, and you, Dan?
Well, doing well. Thanks for getting all the calendars together. I imagine that's probably a task with the number of people I saw invited. So
Yeah. So I put a placeholder a while ago, but yeah, it was very challenging to gather that many people in that many time zones.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you were able to make it.
hey Tara, nice to meet you.
Hey there, nice to meet you too.
Now, where are you based out
I'm in Orange County, California.
of? And how about yourself, Simon?
I'm in Montreal, Canada.
Are you guys how close are you to all the fires?
Pretty close. There's a lot of smog in the city right now.
Yeah. A lot of my a lot of my colleagues and then also family is in the Northeast, and it's they're getting the smoke all the way down in Pennsylvania, which is kind of crazy.
It,
All right, everybody coming in.
Great. And then maybe already a request. I see we're being recorded. Would it be possible after the call to share the recording?
Yeah, absolutely. I make
Great,
note of that.
thank you.
I think I saw something like 16 or so people accept, so we can give a few minutes. Why don't we, while we're waiting for people to trickle in, since I know there's just a lot to cover and this time's going to fly, why don't we do some quick intros on our side, so that way you, the faces that are on camera, you at least know who we are, and you can peg us with questions and keep us on our toes.
Yeah, that would be great. On our side, since we're many people, I think we can skip the intros. It will be
I was gonna say that, as much as I would love to know everyone's role and everything else, 16 is a lot. We'll the whole time up just doing that. So well, anyway, my name's Dan Nice. I'm on the sales side with HubSpot. I've been with the company now for about 2.5 years, I think, if I do the math, which is kind of crazy when I think about it. Prior to HubSpot, and just, I know this is probably pertinent from the evaluation standpoint. I actually was a Salesforce user for 15 years, Salesforce admin for about 5 of those years. Used Pardot, used a lot of the systems you guys are talking about, set them up. So I've got pretty good knowledge base on those systems, how they play together and everything else within there. And from a HubSpot standpoint, do a lot of the admin side, like understand that side as well. So by all means, what our hope is for today is to walk you through the platform, give you a good overview as to what, from a CRM capability, what we can do. I would say traditionally my experience is when you get this many people on a call, no one wants to say anything. I would ask you not to be shy. by all means, put me on the spot, ask questions. I want to be careful so we can get through everything, but at the same time, the important piece here is really making sure that we're satisfying your needs. This is valuable, and I'm glad to hear that, Christopher. Usually when I'm talking to salespeople, they're not. It's the marketing side that when we have that call, that's when they,
Really, it's funny.
yeah.
And just to be clear, then, so it's Pierre-Luc, CIO here at AppDirect. So thanks for taking the time. On the agenda today, right? I think Simon confirmed with you, like we have 3 groups, like without necessarily introducing everybody. So some of us, I'm with Simon on IT, but you really have the sales people, you have account management, and the call center piece. And we'll talk about some of the other topics on a separate call, right?
Correct. Yeah. So really, what I have pulled up and what I was planning on based on the RFP and the requirements there is really looking around CRM capabilities, forecasting from a sales standpoint, a lot of reporting, automation, things like that. Is that aligned with what you're hoping for?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Let me toss it to some other folks on my side real quick, just to kind of get the lay of the land, and then we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, we'll be quick. I don't want to cut into this too much, but hey, my name's Alma Day. I'm one of the heads of corporate sales over at HubSpot. Dan's on my team, so put him in the hot seat. He loves that. But I will be your leadership sponsor throughout this evaluation. And then if you move forward with HubSpot, I'll remain your leadership sponsor. Just know there are folks above me at HubSpot who are really interested in this partnership, all the way up to our CEO, our CMO, our VP of marketing, our head of sales. They all know what's going on. And so I say that so that you know that you have folks all the way to the top. If you want an introduction to them, a meeting, an email, anything, let us know. We can also find the right person if you're not sure who that is. But just know the entire org up to our CEO is excited about this. They're willing to talk if and when you're ready. So that will be coordinated through me. So just let me know when that time comes and I can coordinate. And I will pass it off to Daniel.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. My name is Dan Norman. I am based here in Tampa, Florida. I am the manager of the solutions architect team here at HubSpot. So I work alongside Elle and Dan on the sales side, but my team primarily handles the technical side of the pre-sales evaluation. So you'll be hearing from Amanda here very shortly. She works on my team, but if you need anything from support from my side, happy to jump in and help as needed as well.
Hi, I'm Amanda Summers. I'm the solutions architect at HubSpot, and I am here to facilitate, the technical side. So answer any questions and really understand how we can help solve for your use case and where we fit in your technology stack. So it's really nice to meet all of you.
All right, let's hop into it. I'm going to share my screen. I do have a very quick presentation. I'm not a presentation guy, so this will be quick, but I think it's important to set the stage, especially considering I'm not sure how much experience people have with HubSpot or just knowledge of where we fit within the market. You can also see I have a bunch of tabs up top to kind of walk through, from a cadence standpoint, the different things that we're looking at here. But walking through this really quick. I'll just make a few points on each of these slides, but just to kind of give you an idea. A lot of people think of HubSpot from a marketing standpoint. I mean, that's very fair. That's where we got our start. However, CRM is a very major part of the business now. And it's the fastest growing part of the business as well from a revenue standpoint. We have about 160,000 customers, across segments, and we're a global company within there. And when you look at how we rank and, what people are mentioning from a CRM standpoint, our sales hub, that encompasses CRM. And so when I talk about CRM, the sales hub is the product that, that we sell within that. But that would most likely be the seats and the permission sets that we would need across the account management, across call center and everything else. So nomenclature aside, that's the features that we're talking about. And, without going too much into it, you can obviously see, we're being very much recognized as a leader in this area now, and coming up very close to, from a Salesforce standpoint, what they're looking at and picking off those companies. The big thing I want to talk about is the key differences between us as an enterprise player in the market and then the other enterprise players in the market. So Salesforce being one of them, but there's others within there. And there is one very significant difference, in my opinion, that might not seem like a big deal from a business strategy standpoint and why that matters to this, but from a output standpoint, it makes a big difference. And what I mean by that is that when you look at Salesforce and the other enterprise players in the market versus HubSpot, we have a very different strategy for growth. And that is a Salesforce and the others grow by acquisition. They buy companies, they slap their logo onto it, they connect it with APIs, and you get a very hodgepodge system as to how you pull this thing in. So your experience with, Pardot and the CRM, and then any of the add-ons to do that, I imagine you probably have a lot of experience within that. HubSpot, everything that I will show you today was actually built by HubSpot. Now, outside of a point of pride, why does that matter? It matters because one of the core limitations when it comes to usability with Salesforce, and while Salesforce is very powerful from a platform standpoint, it is also not necessarily known to be the most user-friendly experience, either from an admin or from an end user standpoint. And while they are able to add things in there quickly and grow their company via acquisition very quickly, what they sacrifice in there is the ability to have all that data in one area and really leverage it effectively. And so everything that we showed today will be on one code base, that's on one database, and we built it. And the reason why that matters is that now, number one, it makes things a lot easier. So hopefully I can show you that this is a much simpler platform to use, while not sacrificing a lot of the enterprise functionality that you guys are looking for. And obviously we went through the RFP, we checked the boxes on all the pieces that you guys are asking for there. I'll show you that today. But the other thing about this is it really aligns, since we're talking about marketing and CRM, and I know today's focus on CRM, it really helps align all those different functions across the organization, because now we're working out of a unified database. All that behavior information from marketing is at your fingertips. So now whenever sales or your account managers or the call centers, they want to interact with somebody, they have the full history at their fingertips as to every behavior that they've ever interacted with your brand. And so it makes it very, very simple for them to have contextual conversations, very pertinent conversations at a click of a button versus, the experience that you probably have today. The other side of us that makes us very different is that, I would encourage you guys, if you haven't looked at it yet, look at our pricing page, not necessarily for the numbers aspect, but the reason why I say that is from a product standpoint and how we market this. We really sell 3 different tiers of products. We have a starter, pro, and enterprise. Everything that we've quoted for you guys is enterprise, and it's pretty much all encompassing. If you go to the very bottom of that pricing page, you'll see the add-ons. Those are literally the only add-ons I can sell. And those add-ons are designed more from an abuse standpoint than a upsell standpoint. I can tell you there's, out of all the maybe 15 different add-ons that we have across all the different hubs, there's 2 or 3 that I actually sell semi-regularly, and it's more based on volume than anything else. But all the other ones, it's a pretty rare day that we actually use them. And so the reason why I say that is, from a user standpoint, when we're quoting, on a per user basis, just like everybody else from CRM, you get everything. This is not hey, wait a minute, all of a sudden we need to start adding on and have all these extra components into there. That also goes from a service standpoint as well. And so services included, chat, phone, support, CSM, all that, that's just part of it. There's no extra service contracts that you have to get and everything else within there.
Can you just say a little bit more on CSM, please?
Yeah. So you guys would have a dedicated strategic CSM, and what they'll be doing. So there's really a couple different roles that we have within there. So I would, or you'll have a salesperson on the account. I'm actually subbing for somebody who's on paternity leave, so it's either me or Travis, I forget who. You'll have the whole support team for any one-off technical questions, and there's inline chat within the product. And then you'll have a dedicated strategic CSM, which is more like a kind of monthly strategic calls around where are we right now? Where do we want to go? How can we help streamline, from a strategic standpoint, what are we doing there?
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So the other piece here that I really want to hit is that because of all these things, the ease of use, that we can show on the front end, the back end, the adaptability, the scalability, and everything else. There's a couple pieces here that I'm happy to, send over documentation or case studies in the backside. Number one is that this is just much easier and faster to implement, which obviously time to value and everything else is important when you're making such a big investment. But number two, adoption is significantly higher. I will put myself in the boat of, and Elle will probably back me up in saying this, a pain in the ass sales guys who don't always follow process, don't always do things. And I was the epitome of that when using Salesforce. And now I would like to say everything gets logged, it's all in there, and I'm following that process. I didn't have some kind of major change to heart. And the way I conduct my business or anything else, the big difference is that HubSpot just matches my workflow. And so I can do the things that I have to do every day that I know that I need to do to be successful without having to, manipulate the platform in a way that doesn't match that. And so because of that, I just use it. And it's a very big difference from my experience at the previous platforms within there.
Hey, Dan, quick question. You mentioned the pricing that you provided to us is enterprise, so it includes all the features.
Yep.
I am assuming the marketing side of HubSpot is still separate, or is any part of that?
Yeah. That's a good point. So we have what we call hubs. I mean, that's obviously HubSpot term, but that's, the products. And so there's Marketing Hub, there's Sales Hub, Service Hub, Operations Hub, and CMS. Those are essentially the, 5 products that we have available. And so within the quote, we broke out between sales and marketing. Now, one of the things that we would probably make sense if you guys want to keep going down this line, the sales and service seats are the exact same pricing. So that's not going to change the numbers. But depending on use case, it might be like we mix and match depending, like sometimes account management makes more sense to be from a service functionality standpoint, things like that. But it won't change the overall cost within there. It just might be that, hey, now we add service in, and instead of doing 150 seats of sales, we do, 150, 100 sales, 50 service, and type of thing.
Got it.
What else? Anything?
No, so far so good.
Okay. So, can you guys see Josephine here?
Yep.
All right. So this is HubSpot. I'm going to make the assumption that most of you guys have not seen this. And if that's not the case, just tell me. But I want to start.
I think that's fair for the purpose of the call, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to start on the contact record. I want to make a few nomenclature sides that people just understand, since you guys are used to Salesforce nomenclature side, what that means in HubSpot. And I'll point out some basic differences, and then we'll kind of walk through the different components that you guys asked me for in there. I'll also ask Elle or somebody else, pay attention to the chat, because well, you know me, I'm not going to pay attention to that. So I get in the zone. But from a CRM aspect, it's going to be a lot of what you're used to. So we have objects just like Salesforce. For the most part, those objects match up one-to-one. Now, there are 2 slight differences that I want to point out. One's a bigger difference, one's a small difference. The first difference is that we don't break out contacts and leads. We just have contacts, and then we can track lead status and everything else based on different properties and fields within there. The other difference, which is a much bigger difference, is how we track activities. So in Salesforce, if you think of objects in the CRM, it's kind of a bucket to retain information, and then you can customize that with different fields and whatever else to store that. In Salesforce, the activity and task object is fundamentally the same as your contact, opportunity, company, et cetera. For us, activities are fundamentally different. And so while I can customize this, what I'm doing in here is that instead of just having a blank slate where then I have to create fields to store any of that data, we actually will store any of that behavior data separately and all of the dispositions of that behavior data. So for instance, did they click on the ad? Did they view the ad? What did they do from there? Where did they go on the pages? How did they interact with the marketing email, et cetera, is stored within there as well. Now, the reason why I say this is that from a CRM use case perspective, when you think about sales, account management, and everyone else as they interact, this makes them understanding how this person got here and what the history of that contact or the company or the deal or any of those other objects significantly easier to understand. Because in Salesforce, the main disadvantage that I had, at least when I was an admin using there, was that because of limitations on how many properties you can have on that activity object, most of the time, any plugin that you do does what, essentially subject line filtering. So if I wanted to put in the add-in, so even Pardot is a great example. Even though Pardot's owned by Salesforce, when they log activities back to Salesforce, they're going to do a subject line that says like email sent, and then brackets, did it open, brackets, did they click in it, et cetera, and you can customize that how you want, but it gets very, very messy and very, very difficult to actually discern, what's going on in there. And so for the most part, from my experience, people don't really look in there because it just got overwhelming too quickly. For us, when I come in to look at a contact, and we'll talk about how this applies to companies, and so companies would be the equivalent of accounts, deals be the equivalent of opportunities in Salesforce. I can very quickly come in and say, you know what, I just want to know what my team has done and see what's going on there. Or I just want to know, maybe it's a brand new lead, I want to know how they got here. And I can see every single page view that they pulled in here before, if they clicked on ads, if they submitted forms, any of those components, if they've interacted with our social. The way that we do this is that we have a tracking code, and we'll put a cookie on there, and then, just like any other marketing platform, as they click and they get in there, we get it. The reason why I say this is that context matters in the situation of how your end users will use the CRM. And having that context at the bottom, very easy to access, makes a world of difference in how well they're able to interact with Josephine and save time and effort on there. So that is one key difference. Other than that, you're going to see, like, we have properties. There's a lot of properties out of the box. You can customize these however you need to. You can create different views based on teams and permissions and all that kind of stuff that you'd expect from a CRM. And then these objects will be related to other objects. So I have contacts, and like I mentioned, deals are our equivalent of opportunities. We'll talk about that deal management in a second. Companies are the equivalent of accounts. But really, other than that, it's the same from an object layout and how you'd expect. I do have a custom object in here. They're very easy to create. One thing I will note, and I, didn't create a use case for a custom object in here, but one thing I'm a big fan of compared to previous experiences is that you're not really ever going to have to code. So, there's not the equivalent of Apex and HubSpot that you're going to have to, get developers to create these things. 99.999%, and I'll be very clear if it's not, is all UI driven in creation and management of all these.
Dan, quick question for you. It might be a long answer. So in our structure, we are a multi-channel structure. So we will have a channel partner, and then that channel partner might have individual customer opportunities underneath that channel partner. We need to be able to look at both of those. Can you speak a little bit to how you would handle that type of hierarchy?
So let me make sure I understand what you're asking. So you have essentially, HubSpot could have two different components of opportunities, one being the channel, one being your sales pipeline. Is that?
Well, they're
fair.
sort of the same. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, they're sort of the same, but you're on the right track. So we have channel partners, folks that sell for AppDirect. And then we're also tracking the customers that are underneath those channel partners. So having a record where we manage all the activity with the channel partners, all the things we're doing with them, but then under their deal flow are the individual customers that they are selling.
Okay. So we have a similar structure here at HubSpot.
Okay.
And this is a kind of general statement for any CRM, but there's a lot of ways that we can solve this. And so it could be based off of, like, when we look at a deal in here, categorization, within properties, and trying to, notating whether it's a channel sales versus direct sales, or something like that. It could be via different pipelines. It could be via different permission sets. There's a lot of different ways that we could solve for it. I think it would just be dependent on getting a deeper understanding of exactly what the use case is and how we should look at that.
Yeah, in very brief, because I want to keep you on the flow of the demo here. The critical component of this is that we need to be able to look at an end user customer record and see that it is tagged back to a channel partner, and then also be able to manage the record for that channel partner. So you end up with basically having direct customer accounts, and then you also have channel partner accounts that might be linked to those.
And Chris, could you not also have multi-layer there too? You have a TS, like a mini master, and then a sub underneath them, and then a customer, and you want to have visibility into all those layers.
Ideally, you are correct, Jeremy. I'm not sure how far that rabbit
hole.
No,
we won't go down the rabbit hole now, but I got that in mind.
Yeah, I think, and any of the essays in the line, tell me if you guys disagree on this, but I think what you guys are talking about would probably be more fitting via custom objects. And so creating, essentially, you have the company, which could be sold direct, it could be sold via channel, and then we have objects around those different channel partners that can also create deals related to the company. manage that within there, and then we could very easily segment between them, knowing, you know, which direction they came from.
So I would agree to park that, and I know we're gonna have a follow-up call, but so far, like, other than, yeah, like, we could do anything, like, this is pretty critical, so I'd like the HubSpot team to capture that, and like, we need a demo of that working, like, so what I would prefer to see is something like, you know, all companies in my head would be companies, if that's the way you name your field.
Yep.
But then we need to be able to have relationship between companies. And so, you know, company A might be a customer, company B might be an advisor or a channel partner, and we need to go be able to see the relationship when we look at A, that it's served by B, and when we go to B, that it serves A at all times in all directions. So that's really, really critical. So let's park that if it's, you know, if we need to, but we'd like to see a demo of that working. That's
I think it wouldn't be hard for me to either we can create a follow-up video and kind of walk through that, like, well, we'll create a custom within here and then show you. Or we can have a call depending on there. What would be valuable to me in there is that if you had a example that you could just write out,
of course,
like whatever, then I'll use that as a template to how we build that out.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, Dan, to piggyback on that too, right? Is the way that they're segmented, and if we're choosing to go with the marketing module, how we make sure that these different organization types or segments are not marketed to in certain ways, right? If we make a flub and we start marketing directly to our advisors, customers, and customers on accident, our business is done, right? You've lost the trust of your advisors.
That's a very simple piece, because marketing is based off of lists, which would all be based off of filtered on there. So depending on how we set this up, and you know, that will be a little bit off the use case that you guys can, if you don't mind writing that up and send it over, it'd be a very simple filter, whether it's a custom object, whether it's custom field, whether it's combination of all those. You know, it's just a simple filter of exclusion.
Okay, thank you.
Any other, and this is really good, any other critical use cases when it comes to the objects, the relationships, how they manage together? Obviously we're going off of what we read in the RFP, which you know, it's an RFP, so it is what it is. But if there's a particular use case or situation that we also need to, like, you know, cover in here, I can either talk to it, or we'll make a sideline for another call or video.
Yeah, Dan, I'd say the key thing is just understanding those channel relationships, you know, and I think Pierre Luc actually stated perfectly the idea of just interacting between companies. I think the key thing that, and I've used HubSpot in the past, so I'm a little biased here, but I do want to understand for the group a little bit more around the integrations, because for the sales team members, I want the ability to track every single piece of activity, but I want to do it with the least amount of clicks. So, you know, if you, I know you're a Gmail shop, we're a Gmail shop, how that functions, as well as you know, we use Ring Central currently for our UCAS solution, and I know you guys have different pieces of that. How making phone calls via this CRM would work as well.
Yeah, no, it's a great segue. So
Dan, I'd add to that and say through mobile app as well, right? Desktop and mobile.
Great call out.
Cool. Let me do this. I'm going to pull up my phone as we're doing this, and we'll do a okay, I'm going to join in. All right. So we'll show mobile in a second. Let's pull up my Gmail in here. I haven't looked at my email in a little bit, so hopefully there's nothing crazy in here, but this is my personal, well, my work email. The HubSpot, the way that this works is that we have a plugin. You install it into your browser. From there, once you give permissions, obviously, this will track any email sent based on settings. And so by default, if you send an email to somebody that's outside your organization, it will log it and track it. You have the option to then auto create contacts and do all that kind of jazz too if you want. And this will automatically pull up the contact record as well when I pull in here. You'll notice the features and functionality that we'll talk about in a second from an activity standpoint are all available directly within here. One, a little aside, which is kind of fun, is that this is a ChatGPT kind of like prompt-based email thing. So if you want, from a sales perspective, prospecting standpoint or whatever else, really easy to come in here and auto create some emails within there. So that's all your emails. All your meetings will also track. So this directly links into the calendar. And so if somebody has something scheduled on their Gmail calendar with somebody outside that organization, that will automatically log into HubSpot as a meeting. And so you can see here, we track, all calls, all emails, and then all meetings as well. And so that will log in there as a meeting. And with Enterprise as well, if you guys use Zoom internally, or what do you guys use?
Internally, we use
Meet.
I'm sorry, there was like 5 people that said the same thing.
We use Google Meet and Zoom. Those are the 2 primary platforms we use for video meetings.
Okay, I'm not sure about Google Meet off the top of my head, but with Zoom, it's a direct integration in here as well. And without getting too much into it, calls are, and that would be considered, like when we log that in there, it would count in here. We'll log every call, we'll record it, and then we'll transcribe it as well. So similar to like and I'm going to switch demo accounts for this piece since this is all fake data. I don't have any. Similar to like a gong or a chorus, you would have that piece out of the box. Ring Central, and Amanda or Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm 99% sure there's a native integration with that. We can look into the specifics as to how that tracks, but generally what that means is on here for a contact, instead of having, so I can actually email directly from here. And this will look and feel like it came out of my Gmail. There's no difference. It's really just preference from a user standpoint. And as a quick aside, people ask me all the time, well, do you work out of HubSpot or do you work out of Gmail? I work out of both. It's just whatever's easiest. If I have it pulled up here, I email from here. If I'm in Gmail, I email from there. Instead of having the email and the call button here, where now I'm calling directly, via the HubSpot number, this would most likely, and we'll double check on this, just call via Ring Central. Is typically how most people use our calling SDK within there. And so
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I would call directly in here and then it would log that call and the recording and transcribe that recording as well.
So I know in the past there are like minute packages and different stuff, and we're using like HubSpot as the voice provider. If we're using Ring Central, it just natively integrates.
Correct.
Awesome. And could you talk a little bit about that transcription piece, whether Zoom or with any of them? How does that function? That's interesting.
Yep. So this is a relatively new feature, like within the last year. And just so you guys know, navigation wise, everything is going to be up in here. So depending on the area that you're in, I mean, the vast majority will be in these buckets. If I come over here and do this isn't some kind of like, sales, pull over. I just have 16 different demo accounts and they all have different information in it. So I don't have call data in mind, but there is call data in here. And so we'll just pick some random call. The other thing I'll warn you, Big Lytics is our sales demo for like all 1,000 sales reps. So it gets pretty messy really quick. But this is a call somebody made, and it was, in Spanish apparently, but it will transcribe it. You have the ability to take notes in here. I have the ability to tag people. So if I do, like, one thing that's cool about HubSpot, if I @mention folks, I can come in here. And when I save this, this person who I also have never met will get a notification and an email to their inbox talking about this call. So really easy from a coaching standpoint or note-taking standpoint, you can pull in there. You'll notice terms, you can, similar to those other call pieces, you can track terms in here and you can see how they flow with all that. You can also create playlists and everything. I'm on there, it's live on mine. So if there's good calls in there, you want to use the examples, you can create playlists and pull all that in there as well for coaching purposes.
So I just want to be really clear, and forgive me, I'm the sales guy, so I
You're
always look
good, you're good.
we forgot to ask. Using the Ring Central integration, we're still going to get that transcription on any call that someone makes through the HubSpot web app, correct? With the current pricing?
Yeah, let me, yeah, Amanda, I'll give that one to you, but
You will get the analytics. I will double check on the transcript. I do know that our APIs are available because you do have that through Zoom. So there is a possibility there, but I will definitely follow up with that.
Yeah, I'd love to get the information on that, because that'd be a nice little add-on. And then again, with all the email and everything that's Gmail, it is all 100% automated. No one has to do an extra click, doesn't have to go off to the sidebar and go, I want to log this email or put in a BCC. It's all automatic.
as long as the setting is set up that way. So you'll notice when I put Simon in here, it defaults to logging and tracking. That's an option, obviously, from an admin standpoint, but that's the default option. And so, yes.
Awesome.
I never have to do anything.
We're still.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
Did you say it was Analytics as your analytic platform?
No, everything in here is HubSpot.
No, I'm saying for the transcription piece.
I think it's all. I don't know any different.
You just have your,
yeah,
it's all
we can
homegrown.
look into it, but
I think what Amanda was referring to is it with Ring Central is logging the analytics on your calls.
Oh,
That may
yes.
have been what you
yes,
heard.
yeah.
yes,
Got
yeah.
it. And then do you guys?
That integration
ahead.
depends on what they like what they're passing over. So we'll get the specific details on exactly how they put the the SDK is available for them to pass all that information over.
Understood. And then do you guys have an integration with Five9?
Yes, we do.
Yep. There you go.
Okay.
Perfect. And we can get you the details and specifics of that as well.
Yeah, that one's got a little special use case that we can dive in on another technical call.
Okay. Let me, I think we're doing okay here. Should we show mobile or should we
Yes,
save
please.
that? Okay. All right, let me figure out. Let me pull up my app.
Yeah, and as he's doing that, we are posting some links within the chat. We'll be sure to follow up with all of those links in an email as well for you to reference back to.
So while he's pulling that up, oh, no, we're good.
All right. Yeah, looks like you guys can see this. So mobile is all, I mean, you have full CRM access within here as well. So you can see here, is it showing? Oh, it's just delayed. All your objects, everything else are coming in here. I can search any contacts, companies, any of that information within that as well. Email and everything else, once again, since you're connected via Gmail. But is there anything specific about mobile that we should cover, as much as like how you access it and what you can do within here?
No, I was just more concerned with if Chris's team, they don't all just operate sitting at their desk, they're out, they're taking meetings, they're doing whatever. If they get a phone call that rings to Ring Central or whatever, they pick it up, they hang up. Are they required to tag anything, or is it automatically just going to go and say, hey, you had this call?
Yeah, because I
Same
also
thing.
noticed you had a way to track SMS as well. So, I mean, how do those pieces work?
How are they sending SMS right now? Are they sending it just via their provider, or are you doing that via Ring Central?
Both actually. So, we can direct them one way or the other. We've never really we haven't really implemented SMS tracking, so that's what I'm kind of curious about.
Yeah. I think what would be good here is if we us as a HubSpot team dig into the details of the Ring Central integration and what that provides and everything else, because the quick answer is that it really depends on what they're sending over. But if they're sending all that data over, and I know that we have it, but the devil's always in the details when it comes to integrations, then it would track. That would be a lot easier than doing the manual SMS, which is like if I send it via my carrier, then I'm going to manually log it coming within there.
Okay. Can you make a call from the app? And, if you look up an account and you hit the number, is it making a call via VoIP interface, or is it handing off to the carrier?
Yeah, I can jump in.
Thank you, mate.
And nice to meet you guys. I joined a little bit late. Service Hub is one of the hubs my team and I manage. So if you guys have Ring Central integrated, when you click to call from the contact record, if that's how you prefer to do it, you'll have a drop down of options. So you can have native calling to HubSpot, but if you're already utilizing Ring Central and you don't want to reinvent the wheel, that can be one of your default carriers to automatically click to dial directly from the contact record, and vice versa. So if you're utilizing Ring Central's interface, that integration is going to populate the contact record directly from HubSpot in congruence with the Ring Central interface when you click the call from Ring Central.
That's what I want to hear. Thank you.
Perfect. Let's jump back to CRM, since I know there's still a lot to do and not a lot of time.
Hey, you asked questions.
No, it's good. It's good. Normally nobody says anything. So if there's one thing I hate doing is talking to myself for an hour. So, all right.
Can we, I don't know where we were in the script, but I wouldn't mind a 5 or 10 minutes on the basics. Like, can we walk through like a lead coming in? Can we have different stages of that lead, and then that lead converts to an opportunity? Just like a basic flow. I think it'd still be good for everybody to see. And we have also different sales teams, so some people use leads a little bit differently. And you said leads were contacts, so I also wanted to understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, 100%. So depending on, and once again, the caveat I'll put on this is that this is all going to depend on how we decide to set up and what that implementation looks like. But the out of the box way that we do that is we'll manage, status and cycle based within there. And so that lead can be routed automatically via, automation, which we haven't talked about yet, but essentially really any kind of trigger that comes in here. So we just need some triggering event. So that could be any change to within CRM, push data, whatever else. And then we can route that to the appropriate people. We can do whatever you need to from there via automation. But that rep will get a notification, probably via email, probably in app. There's a lot of ways we can do this, that Josephine here has filled out a form. And when they get that, then they can come in here. They'll see the history of how Josephine got to that form, and that, all the pages that they visited beforehand. If it warrants, there's a couple things that they can do right off the bat. Like what I do is I will come in, I'll send a sequence, which essentially is and I don't have my email connected to this since it's a demo, but it's a series of emails or call task or whatever else that I can add somebody into, similar to like an outreach or a sales loft. I'll put them in a sequence. This will create a call task that I'll run through. Manual email is a template that will, come in here, the automated emails. And in that email, I will have a meeting link, which is a live link to my calendar. And so because we connect once again directly within Gmail to the calendar, this is now a live feed to the calendar. And so somebody can book a demo directly on here. And if they do that, they're removed from the sequence. And when they book, so Josephine books on my calendar. So if I do this here, we'll just do for 9 a.m. tomorrow. I have just sent myself.
Nobody needs Calendly anymore.
Correct.
David, it's huge.
Yeah. This is a Calendly in a nutshell. So now we just both got invites, the Zoom links in there, really simple. I can create the deal. These are flexible in how we do this and what we decide to, but what defaults we have within here, but we'll just say that we're going to be on the default here. And I now have a deal record. And so a deal record will feel very similar to, the look and feel to any other record in here. So it's not like we got to learn different UIs depending on where we're at. We'll have custom fields that you can have within here. I created a medic component just to, showcase within there. And then these views can change depending on the role and everything else that we have with that person. This individual now is automatically attached and we see the related company. Let's say Josephine adds somebody else in there. Really simple for me to find this other person, add it in there, And oh, by the way, you know, Danita is the decision maker, so we can start to, you know, create custom labels and things like that on there, so we can know, you know, do we have the right roles involved, et cetera. And then all the activity of either Danita or Josephine that we have will now roll up to the deal record as we come in here. And so we can very easily, from a leadership standpoint, but also from a rep standpoint, see, you know, is there activity on this? How active is it? You know, what are we doing, et cetera, within there.
Hey Dan, quick question. How does the lead get attributed to an account? Is it manual or?
Yeah, so by default, and there's a variety of ways you can do this too, but by default, it will look at the end URL within here. So if you guys came in just because you have at appdirect.com, it would automatically associate to the appdirect.com company page.
Got it. So if it can connect the lead with an account, it will automatically do so.
Correct.
And then if it's garbage in terms of a domain or account name that's been provided through the lead, then it just, I guess it sits as a lead, is not attributed to an account unless you then do it manually. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's different ways that you can do that, but yeah, I would say, yeah, without getting too much into the weeds, you know.
And going along with that, Dan, can, and again, don't want to assume, but can you have multiple lead types with different lead registration rules? Meaning, I might have a channel partner lead where that lead comes in and they fill out the form and I want to route it based on the state because it's a brand new account. Joe might want to do it based on the vertical or the information you pull on the company URL.
Yeah, and so that's all going to be done via workflows. And so I apologize for hopping around here too much, but this is a good segue within there as well. So a workflow requires some kind of triggering event. So in this case, it'd be a form fill. And then depending on the contents of that form, we can do a bunch of different actions from there. And so this is a pretty messy one, but for instance, they fill out a form here, we send them a thank you email. Maybe we then format the data in there to make sure it looks nice and it's not all, caps and whatever else. So you can clean that data as it comes into the CRM or format the company name so they match it a particular way. We can rotate to an owner depending on that rule, and then do whatever you need to. So the answer is yes. There's a lot of ways that you can do this. These can be as simple or as complicated as you want. But really, from an automation standpoint, you have full flexibility to do what you need to, depending on the rules of what you're trying to do.
So Dan, I have a question. This is Tara. And these are the important ones for me. I need to know, because we have Salesforce right now. We've had 21 acquisitions or invests. And so there's been a lot of data put into our Salesforce. There's a lot of cleanup that has to happen before we get it into a new CRM. When we sign up with you, is that part of the lift? Like, who does all the cleanup of the data? Who works with us and making sure it's fresh, clean data going in?
That is, yeah, that's a to be determined. So one of the things that was asked of us, of which, that we kind of sent back is like a quote on implementation. The thing about implementation quotes is that it's all about the details. And so the answer could be, we use like the implementation partner does that. The answer could be you guys. The answer could be somewhere in between. But to your point there, you can have the best software out there. And I'm biased and I think that we're a great software, but if you load it with a bunch of garbage data, it's still going to be a bear.
Okay.
So
we should add that as Pierre-Luc, somebody's going to have to take on that lift, because we have a lot of bad data and it would have to be cleaned up to make this work. The other two things that were super important for me is this is a great funnel management tool. I can see how verbose it is. It has all the activity and funnel management that I might possibly need. Customer records, we can store that stuff in here. It looks great. Everything from here for us, once we close an opportunity, ends up into a homegrown system that we call provider sales, or in the marketplace, which is another platform that we created. And I have to have a way to bring that data back in to the CRM so it's relevant. Because if we create an order here as a record for that customer and it ends up in the other system and gets canceled, then the record is now off.
Yeah.
So there has to be some information that's pulled back from those two systems. And also, so we know that if somebody creates an order in Marketplace, that it shows up in this CRM system, because we might not have created the order. It may have come through from, right, a customer or an advisor. So that's another one. And then my last is, and I put it on the, the questionnaire when it first came through, is I really need relevant real-time billing information. So each month as we get billing reports from all of the providers, I want to be able to link that to each of our accounts so I can see what the provider billings, the advisor billings, and the percentage of residuals are for each of those accounts. And that was kind of a step above and beyond, but it's something that I need to, again, be relevant, because if we have a customer in here and they end up canceling their contract but don't tell us, I want to be able to see that there's no billings that comes through in a given month to try and figure out what happened to that account.
Yeah, so the quick answer to that is that would all be done via integrations. And so since they're custom apps, we have a very robust API, and you could essentially create a private app on our side that would then sync with those. And, the terms of how often it syncs and what it's looking for is, completely up to you guys. But 100% possible. It's just a matter of the details.
Okay.
Yeah, and to be clear, and Tara, like we've had that conversation. No surprise in what you're saying. Not all of this is in the scope of this phase, I'm going to say. So, with the conversation that we're having right now, we're trying to find a CRM partner to build a foundation. I'm going to say that's phase one. I would say of the three things you mentioned, the data is probably the one we should need to pay the most attention, because we will load it with some data, so it should be as good as possible. So that I'd say is within scope. The other two, integration with provider sales and marketplace and billings report, I think are going to be on a roadmap. We want to pick a platform that has integration, that it's easy to integrate with, that has APIs, but we're not going to deliver this out of the gate in this new CRM platform, just to manage expectation. It's, based on capacity and needs and resources, we can have a conversation offline, but I'm not considering that as the first phase scope.
And I would echo that as best practice as well. And that my job here is to, number one, spot check use cases and make sure there's no gotchas that we can't handle, which so far I think, there's nothing that scares me. Number two is show like what is possible. But then I think the important thing to know here is that for most of my customers coming from, a big legacy CRM like what you guys have into HubSpot, just the nature of taking that process and bringing it in here is a massive win. But what I don't like to do is try and boil the ocean out of the gate, because when that happens, then, well, number one, you don't know ideal state until you really get in there and start to really push things. But number two, it's very easy to bite off too much and then, essentially overshoot what you guys are looking for, and implementations fail. So really, the scope, on that standpoint is how do we crawl, walk, run in the best way that we get time to value for you guys and really maximize this investment, because obviously it's a big spend. We're coming up on the last 10 minutes now. I know we've jumped around a ton. So hopefully, number one, it hasn't been too much and people are tracking. With the last 10 minutes, there's things that you guys asked about that we haven't talked about yet. The two big ones I think would be like pipeline management, forecasting, and then reporting is another piece in here. We can touch on both. We can't go into detail on both either, but is it okay if we kind of jump into those things and start looking at that? Okay. I'll look at a deal board first. So in general, when it comes to looking at objects, the default object view looks like this. And this is how you would view any object in here. So companies, contacts, et cetera, are going to have the same view in here, where I can have my list of all the people that I own. I can create different filters on here to really segment this down. So for instance, if I was prospecting, I could create a contact filter that says, hey, show me everyone that I own in my territory that's been to the website in the last 30 days and doesn't have an active deal. Pretty simple. I could tag that and save that as a view and then have it access there. The same thing available within deals. However, deals also has the ability to have this board style, which is my preference because it's just really easy. So I can see things very quickly by stage. I should mention, obviously, you can have multiple pipelines. There can be workflow rules between pipelines that really try to automate a lot of these things. So I know one of the things somebody mentioned, I think either on this call or in the RFP, was, a deal goes to a certain stage and we got to notify a certain team so they can process something. Really easy to automate that. From a rep standpoint, managing this is also really simple. So instead of having to click in and see every single deal, like I would in other systems, if I come back, I can do most of this from this board. And what I mean by that is it's very simple for me to just, maybe this deal here is actually not in decision-making brought in. I just sent the contract. I just updated the stage. I just close this one, really simple. So I'm not having to do like 30 clicks per thing just to do basic admin work. I can also, I'm gonna have to click it if I want to. I can just pull up and I get a preview in here and I can start to update all the different fields and I can customize how this looks and feel. But it's really easy for me to update those fields on the fly, once again, without having to jump in. The other thing that you'll go ahead.
Just a quick, that's great, by the way. I really like how easy that is. Just so you get my head in the right place. Is this what you'd class as your like, if I take you back to your old Salesforce days, the forecast tab, is this the forecast tab?
We have a different tab for that.
Right. Okay. So this
is more just like general pipeline management.
So this is okay. Yeah. Right. So I don't think we really have a view like this in Salesforce today.
Yeah. The way I had to do it back in the day. Now, granted, I'm gonna put an asterisk on this is like 4 years ago, and I don't have best memory, but as I had an opportunity report that I had to work out of, and then you'd have to individually click into every opportunity and
update. Which is super exactly right. So I think we typically would work out the forecast tab in this way. So this is far more flexible than that way. Great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The other piece I like in here is a fan favorite from a rep standpoint is you'll notice that there's gray versus white. I can, for instance, set a threshold on here to say, hey, if any of my deals don't have any activity by myself or someone else within a certain amount of time, gray it out. And so now as a visual representation, when I come into my pipeline, I can very quickly see, hey, here's like the 6 deals that I haven't talked to. I got to go reach out to them. And so it keeps things from falling through the cracks. You can create rules around this of like how you tag it and associate it and things like that. There's a lot of fun things that you can do, but just from like going back to the Dan Nice Salesforce days was a pain in the ass sales rep. Dan Nice HubSpot days actually uses things and like logs everything. It's not because of the change of heart or whatever else. It's just because it's just really freaking simple. I want to keep a clean pipeline. It's just that I don't want to spend an hour a day doing it. And so this board here allows me to do that very simply. From a forecasting standpoint, we have a whole different app around that. I won't get too much into it because I want to talk about reporting, but essentially you can look at it by team. You can set different percentages based off of staging. You can create goals, obviously, at any area of the funnel that you want to track within there. And then, per team, they can submit forecasts based on what they think they're going to meet on the month, the quarter, et cetera. And then it rolls up, all the way up through leadership. So that way you guys get a nice and neat report, without having to do a whole bunch of Excel work, which is probably how you do it today.
Hey, Dan, is there override capability in that? So if a manager rolls up, they're like, I'm going to adjust this person down, this person up. They can do that kind of activity too.
Yep. The sandbagger approach. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
And Dan, in this view, can you get a deal by deal view as well? Like, can you open this out to see all the deals that are making up that forecast?
Yeah. So this is very messy. I just whipped this up really quickly this afternoon, but this guy has 120 deals in appointment schedule. And so I can come in here and see very quickly, what they are per stage, how they're managing within there.
Got it. Right. Okay.
Reporting. And we're going super quick here. I'll just say the easy thing in the RFP, there's nothing there that scared us from a reporting standpoint. I'll just click through some of these and you can see, you know, nice visuals. One of the things I really like about reporting here versus, you know, past lives is I don't need to understand the data model to get clean data. And so what I mean by that is that previously, if I wanted to come in here and get like a activity report or something like that, I need to know which objects I'm off of. I need to know like what the fields are on there to do that and how to filter and do whatever else. For me now, and this is pretty basic, I understand, but you can customize these however you want. Maybe I want an opportunity view for my team. We have a whole library of data dashboards out of the box. You can see here, I have this one here. It's got these 8, you know, different dashboards. And it will automatically create that. And so now I have the ability to come in here and, you know, change this around, make it however I want. But because we own that data model, so kind of going back to that comment I made at the very, very beginning of like the difference of how we conduct data or how we conduct our business versus, you know, the other enterprise applications of the world. We don't buy them, we just build it. You don't have to know all the ins and outs of how the data is stored and what it is to get good reports out. Is the simple way to say that. And so really simple to create those and manage those. If I go back to that previous dashboard I had, some of the other things I like in here too, it's really easy to embed stuff in here as well. So this can be that single pane of glass. So here's your requirements matrix, you know, from an Excel doc that we have in here. Well, I put it in Google Sheets, but same difference. So that's in there. But if you have like a, you know, all we need to, in order to embed it, it needs to allow for iframing. But, you know, like Looker reports or Tableau or different things like that, really simple to pull that in there and have that in there. Also really simple to get these out as much as you want. So if I want to have this emailed out to the team, I can just share it and email it to whoever I need to on whatever reoccurring basis. So these are things, the thing I appreciate about this is that all these are functionalities that obviously we got to train on, but these aren't sales ops functionalities. These aren't things I got to go put a ticket to a different group to say, hey, can you create me this? Can you do this? As long as you have the permission, it's easy enough and you're off to do it. We got 2 minutes before the slated time, obviously a whirlwind.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna shut up. What questions you guys have? What concerns? What did I not show that we should talk about?
Is there any opportunity, Dan or Pierre-Luc, I don't know if you know, for the sales leaders like Chris and I to jump into a sandbox environment and just play around with some of the functionality?
Yeah, absolutely. I just would want to like set the stage for you guys, you know, so
Yeah.
obviously it's a powerful tool, so happy to do that, but like, let's have a call where we can walk through, like, what do you want to test? And I'll show you how to do it.
Yeah, there's just a couple of areas there where I'd like to just get a feel for things like that board that you showed in the forecasting tab, just to have a play around. So that'd be super helpful if we could do that.
Yep, we can definitely
let's coordinate everything through Simon, okay, Joe? Then no problem, but I just want to make sure we track all the activities and
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I'll throw you a lightning round that you guys can take away if you need to. You ready? Field level change log, is that available, visible, and to what extent?
I'm gonna push that to the SA team. They could ask
And
that.
you can, I know we're almost at time or overtime, so if you don't care, if you want them to answer these later, just say it. Second, custom object limits. I believe it's 500,000 records or something. There's a limit to it. I'd like to a reminder of what that is.
Okay. I'll dig
Three,
that up.
global product book. Is it permission based so that you can pick and choose any, you know, is it just product book is on or off? Or can you have certain products for certain roles? Organization or account and contact enrichment, who's used or who connects, right? So when you put that account or that user in there, does it pull information about that user, enrich that user? I think there's a native feature for that now.
There is some basic to that. Yeah, I can answer that really quickly. There's some basic enrichment to that, but it's like, I mean, you're talking like industry and, you know, basic revenue, things like that. So oftentimes people still augment it with like a Zoom info or something like that, depending on how detailed you need to be.
Okay. And last one, for site tracking that you guys have going, does that only work on public sites or does it work on sites that have walls behind them as well, such as the marketplace that we have, right? Will it log an action if it's behind a password?
It should, correct. Yep.
If it's
It
tagged
should.
correctly.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you have to configure it, but yes.
Yeah.
Deal. Okay.
Yeah,
that's
I'll
it.
get you the answer to those first three because they're a little bit more nuanced. But it's recorded, so we'll follow up with that.
Probably like that.
What else?
Okay, thanks, Jason. I think, look, we're gonna start to drop. Do you have one or two last one, David, or?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
Good job, everybody.
Was that Chris?
I said, good job, everybody. That was good.
Yeah, so look, thanks to the team on both sides. I know it's a big number and then a couple of use cases at the same time. I think, you know, Simone, maybe like, do we have the next group scheduled already, just as a quick next step, or?
Yeah, I have the placeholders. I have a few options for you.
Okay.
HubSpot team. So I reach out very, very soon to schedule the next call with the next team.
Awesome. And then
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, the last piece. So there's the next call to schedule, which is a different team. And then I think Simone and HubSpot team, I just want to have an elegant way to coordinate like a couple of like deep dive. The most important one I think is the channel relationships.
Yeah.
Either it's a deep dive call, like just the few of us, or let's think about something that's not too crazy to try to figure that out.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask too, is how we can coordinate that. So what I would ask there is we can do one of two things to help, because I want to wrap my head around the situation before we actually have that. So either it's somebody gives us a write-up of like, hey, here's an example, a concrete example of like what this, you know, the partner company object type of thing, how that looks like. Or we do a quick discovery call where we can just ask questions and kind of, you know, wrap our heads around it that way. But then by all means, you know, from there, whichever you prefer, whether it's we create a demo and we, you know, create a video that walks you through it, or we create a call where you can, you know, do the same thing here, lightning round questions, you pick, but
okay.
We're all,
we'll figure something out. Okay.
Yeah. But the key thing, I just want to wrap my head around it before I can give you a concrete. So
we'll find something in writing or put up. I think if we document something, send it to you and have like a 30-minute call, that might be a good approach.
Yeah, that works for me.
Awesome.
Last thing I'll say, because I know we're already over time and I imagine everyone's got it's back to back. So I really do try to pride myself in being as candid as possible. Hope you guys kind of see here that, you know, like there's no questions off limits. By all means, I'm a big proponent of let's get the roadblocks out now, because it's a heck of a lot easier to solve it now than it is during implementation. So long way of saying don't be shy, which I know you aren't, but ask questions and we'll get into the weeds, and happy to, you know, help you guys out however we can.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody at AppDirect too, from all over the world, from different time zones, and thanks to the HubSpot team as well.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.